just picking and grinning and singing. Jerry, hey, what are you doing? Yeah, I got some good shine here, and why don't you bring a jar and bring your guitar over and let's play a few tunes. Great, see you in a bit. Pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little, cheap, 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 talk a lot, pick a little more, pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little, cheap, 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 talk a lot, pick a little, pick a little, talk 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 a little, cheap, cheap, cheap. Hey, how's it going?
Very good.
Let me pour you a little shine there. I see you got your jar.
Thanks for calling. You got a new batch?
Yeah, well, it's what's left of the last batch, but it was still pretty good.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Better keep it shy there. Oh, I better have a little shot here. Ching, ching.
Clink to your new show.
Whoa! Yeah.
Oh, boy. Well, that'll wet your whistle.
Whew. I think that calls for a Roger Miller song. You got one?
Yeah. How about that song, Trailers for Sale or Rent?
Let's play it.
Trailers for sale or rent, rooms to let 50 cents. No phone, no pool, no pets. I ain't got no cigarettes. I'm 2 hours of pushing broom. Buys an 8 by 12 4-bedroom. I'm a man of means, by no means king of the road. Third boxcar, midnight train, destination Bangor, Maine. Old worn out suit and shoes, I don't pay no union dues. I smoke old stogies I have found, short but not too big around. I'm a man of means, by no means king of the road. I know every engineer on every train, all the children and all of their names, every handout in every town, and every lock that ain't locked when no one's around. I sing trailers for sale or rent, rooms to let 50 cents. No phone, no pool, no pets. I ain't got no cigarettes, all but 2 hours of pushing broom. Buys a 8 by 12 4-bedroom. I'm a man of means, by no means king of the road.
Yeah, that was a good start. Yeah, I like that. Hey, let's do that song from the Melodians, that Jamaican group. Kind of tells a little bit of a story. You know, it's kind of, they talk about Zion. That's where they come from, Africa. Taken away from their homeland in Zion and ended up in Babylon, which is somewhere they can't get back to their homeland, and forced to sing while they work. That's kind of what this song's about. By the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down, and there we wept when we remember Zion. For the wicked carry us away, captivity requires of us a song. How can we sing King Alpha's song in a strange land? For the wicked carry us away, captivity requires of us a song. How can we sing King Alpha's song in a strange land? So let the words of our mouths and the dedication of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, override. For the wicked carry us away, captivity require of us a song. How can we sing King Alpha's song in a strange land? So let the words of our mouths and the dedication of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, override.
shores of Babylon, where we sat down, and there we wept when we remembered Zion. For the wicked carry us away, captivity require of us a song. How can we sing King Alpha's song in a strange land? For the wicked carry us away, captivity require of us a song. How can we sing King Alpha's song in a strange land? So let the words of our mouths and the dedication of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, override. So let the words of our mouths and the dedication of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, override. Oh yeah, thanks for joining me on that one. I like that song. Boy, you know, maybe we ought to sing a song for the kids. It's kind of a kid's song, but it's more of a dad's song, I think. Cats in the Cradle, Harry Chapin?
It's a song for every age.
Every age, okay, have it your way.
No one is untouched by this song. Child arrived just the other day, so much like a man in the usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away, and he was talking before he knew it, and as he grew, said, I'm gonna be like you, Dad, you know I wanna be like you. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, son. You know we'll have a good time then.
My son turned 10 just the other day.
Thanks for the ball, Dad, come on, let's play. Can you teach me to throw? I said, not today, got a lot to do. He said, that's okay, and he walked away, but his smile never dimmed and said, I'm gonna be like him. You know I'm gonna be like him.
And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, son. You know we'll have a good time then.
Came from college just the other day, so much like a man I just had to say, son, I'm proud of you, can you sit for a while? He shook his head and he said with a smile, what I'd really like, Dad, is to borrow the car keys. See you later, can I have them, please? And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then. Long since retired, my son's moved away. I called him up just the other day. I said, I'd like to see you if you don't mind. He said, I'd love to, Dad, if I could find the time. See, my new job's a hassle and the kids have the flu, but it's sure nice talking to you, Dad. It's sure nice talking to you. And as I hung up the phone, it occurred to me, he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then. Thank you, Harry Chapin, for that.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of Marty Robbins, we weren't, but let's do.
No, we weren't, but let's.
Didn't Marty Robbins do that song El Paso?
Yes, he did.
Well, let's do it with him.
We'll try.
Okay.
Out in the West Texas town of El Paso, I fell in love with a Mexican girl. Nighttime would find me in Rosa's cantina. Music would play and Felina would whirl. Blacker than night were the eyes of Felina, wicked and evil while casting a spell. My love was deep for this Mexican maiden. I was in love, but in vain I could tell. One night a wild young cowboy came in, wild as the West Texas wind. Dashing and daring, a drink he was sharing with wicked Felina, the girl that I love. So in anger I challenged his hand for the love of this maiden. Down went his hand for the gun that he wore. My challenge was answered in less than a heartbeat. The handsome young stranger lay dead on the floor. Just for a moment I stood there in silence, shocked by the foul evil deed I had done. Many thoughts raced through my mind as I stood there. I had but one chance, and that was to run. So out through the back door of Roses I ran, out where the horses were tied. I caught a good one, it looked like it could run. Up on its back and away I did ride, just as fast as I could from the West Texas town of El Paso out to the Badlands of New Mexico. Back in El Paso my life would be worthless. Everything's gone in life, nothing is left. Well, it's been so long since I've seen the young maiden. My love is stronger than my fear of death. So I saddled up and away I did go, riding alone in the dark. Maybe tomorrow a bullet will find me. Today nothing's worse than this pain in my heart. And at last here I am on the hill overlooking El Paso. I can see Rosa's cantina below. My love is strong and it pushes me onward. Down off the hill to Felina I go. Off to my right I see 5 mounted cowboys. Off to my left, right, a dozen or more. Shouting and shooting, I can't let them catch me. I have to make it to Rosa's back door. Something is dreadfully wrong, for I feel a deep burning pain in my soul. Though I am trying to stay in the saddle, I'm getting weary, unable to ride. But my love for Felina is strong, and I ride where I've fallen. Though I am weary, I can't stop to rest. I see the white puff of smoke from the rifle. I feel the bullet go deep in my chest. From out of nowhere, Felina has found me, kissing my cheek as she kneels by my side. Cradled by 2 loving arms that I'll die for,
One little kiss and Felina, goodbye.
Ooh, cowboy songs, yeah. Well, we had to change the tempo a little bit and go over
Faster or slower?
Well, let's just cross the ocean and talk about Scotland for a bit. What do you say?
Is that joke about the kilt?
There's a bit of a joke about a kilt in this
Of
one.
course it
Yeah,
is.
I think we ought to tell it.
In the key of D?
In the key of D, sounds all right to me.
A Scotsman clad in kilt left the bar one evening fair. And one could tell by how he walked that he drunk more than his share. He fumbled around until he could no longer keep his feet. Then he stumbled off into the grass to sleep beside the street. Ring ding diddle diddle I-D-O, ring di diddle I-O. He stumbled off into the grass to sleep beside the street. Well, about that time, two young and lovely girls just happened by. And one said to the other with a twinkle in her eye, "See yon sleeping Scotsman, so strong and handsome built. I wonder if it's true that they don't wear beneath their kilt." Ring ding diddle diddle I-D-O, ring di diddle I-O. I wonder if it's true that they don't wear beneath their kilt. They crept up on the sleeping Scotsman quiet as could be, and lifted up his kilt about an inch so they could see. And there, behold, for them to view beneath his Scottish skirt was nothing more than God had graced him with upon his birth. Ring ding diddle diddle I-D-O, ring di diddle I-O. Nothing more than God had graced him with upon his birth. Well, they marveled for a moment, then we said, "Got to go. Let's leave a present for our friend before we move along." As if they left a blue silk ribbon tied into a bow. Around the bonny star the Scotsman's kilt did lift its show. Ring ding diddle diddle I-D-O, ring di diddle I-O. Around the bonny star the Scotsman's kilt did lift its show. Well, the Scotsman woke to nature's call and stumbled toward the trees. Behind a bush he lifts his kilt, gawks at what he sees. And in a startled voice he says to what's before his eyes, "Lad, I don't know where you've been, but I see you won first prize." Ring ding diddle diddle I-D-O, ring di diddle I-O. Lad, I don't know where you've been, but I see you won first prize.
First prize. Well,
Mighty fine.
that was it. That was a joke. Better have another shot of sign here. Loosen us up a bit. My, oh my. Let me pour you a little bit there. You're getting a little low. Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
That ought to be plenty for the rest of the evening, I would think.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Stimpy.
Whoa! Yeah.
Let's get back to cowboy song.
Cowboy song. Well, how about a Jimmy Driftwood? Little Tennessee stud?
Oh, is that who played that?
I can play it.
Long about 1825, I left Tennessee very much alive. I never would have made it through the Arkansas mud if I hadn't been riding on my Tennessee stud. Had some trouble with my sweetheart's paw. One of her brothers was a bad outlaw. I sent her a letter by my Uncle Fudd, and I rode away on the Tennessee stud. Tennessee stud was long and lean, the color of the sun, and his eyes are green. He had the nerve and he had the blood, and there never was a horse like the Tennessee stud. Drifted on down to no man's land, crossed that river called the Rio Grande. I
I raced my horse with the Spaniards bold till I got me a skin full of silver and gold. Me and a gambler, we couldn't agree. We got in a fight over Tennessee. We jerked our guns and he fell with a thud, and I got away on my Tennessee stud. Tennessee stud was long and lean, the color of the sun, and his eyes are green. He had the nerve and he had the blood, and there never was a horse like the Tennessee stud. Got just as lonesome as a man could be, dreaming of my girl in Tennessee. Tennessee stud's green eyes turned blue, 'cause he was a-dreaming of a sweetheart too. I looked run back across Arkansas, I whooped her brother and I whooped her pa. I found that girl with the golden hair, and she was riding on a Tennessee mare. Tennessee stud was long and lean, the color of the sun, and his eyes are green. He had the nerve and he had the blood, and there never was a horse like the Tennessee stud. Stirrup and side by side, across the mountains and the valleys wide. We came to Big Muddy and we forded a flood on the Tennessee mare and the Tennessee stud. Pretty little baby on the cabin floor, a little horse colt playing round the door. I love the girl with the golden hair, and the Tennessee stud loves the Tennessee mare. Tennessee stud was long and lean, the color of the sun, and his eyes are green. He had the nerve and he had the blood, and there never was a horse like the Tennessee stud.
Oh boy, that was just too cheery of a song. Happy ending and everything. You know, there's a song that always makes Sally crack up, and I think we ought to play it for her.
Yeah. It's a John Prine song.
It is. You know, I'm going to capo for this one.
So get your hanky.
Let me capo for this one and
5 minutes.
give it a little different sound. I'm ready when you are. John Prine wrote this.
We had an apartment in the city. Me and Loretta like living there. It's been years since the kids were grown, a life of their own left us alone. John and Linda live in Omaha. Joe's somewhere on the road. We lost Davy in the Korean War. I still don't know what for. Don't matter anymore. You know, old trees just grow stronger, and old rivers grow wilder every day. Old people just grow lonesome, waiting for someone to say hello in there. Hello. Me and Loretta, we don't talk much more. She sits and stares through the back door screen. All the news just repeats itself like some forgotten dream that we've all seen. Someday I'll go and call up Rudy. We work together at the factory. What would I say if he asks what's new? Nothing much with you, nothing much to do. You know, old trees just grow stronger, and old rivers grow wilder every day. Old people just grow lonesome, waiting for someone to say hello in there, hello. So if you're walking down the street sometime, you spot some hollow ancient eyes, please don't pass them by and stare as if you didn't care. Say hello in there, hello.
Well, after Sally dries out, we probably better play another one. I think we're just about out of time. We got time for another song, so we'll.
That's a 2 or a 1.
I want to say goodbye to everybody out there listening, and thanks for joining Rudy and me. He hasn't been much of a co-host today. He's just kind of lounging around, but he's on the scene. And thanks for tuning in. I want to thank my guest, Jerry Jan, and we'll go out with,
Another John Prine?
Let's do another John Prine.
A happy one.
A happy John Prine. Go for it.
Is there ever enough space between us to keep us both honest and true? Why is it so hard just to sit in the yard and stare at the sky so blue? I got a new way of walking and a new way of talking, honey, when I'm around you. But it gives me the blues when I've got some good news and you're not there to bring it to. Life is a blessing, it's a delicatessen of all the little favors you do. All wrapped up together, no matter the weather, honey, you always come through. Well, it's a measure of treasure that gives me the pleasure of loving you the way I do. And you know I would gladly say I need your love badly, need to bring the little things to you. 'Cause you've got gold, gold inside of you. Yeah, you do. You got gold, gold inside of you. Yes, you do. Well, I've got some